Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Live at the Waterhole, where first up, we're on the Olifants River in the Greater Kruger Park. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and what does the bush hold in store for us today? Well, as always, you'll have to sit back, relax, and watch as the animals come down to quench their thirst and cool off. And as always, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience, so we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments. You can do that by going on the Wild Earth website and registering. You can also join the conversation on X, formerly known as Twitter, using the hashtag WildEarth. What is it that you'd like to see? What would you like to chat about? Whatever it is, wildlife related, send it on through and become part of the conversation. Now, it's a lovely spot here down on the Olifants River, living up to its name, Olifant being elephant in our local Afrikaans. So it looks like two bulls here, just enjoying their time at the lazy water's edge. Always calm, always relaxing down here. We often do get the baboons that roost up in the fig trees just alongside this river as well. So we often have lovely sightings of them. And of course, the elephants, they do love coming down to the river. It's been a huge system that's moved on over South Africa. Very inclement weather. There's been huge storms down in the Cape, and it's heading up the Eastern Cape now and into KwaZulu-Natal. And freezing temperatures inland on the Highveld. I heard this morning some areas were minus 10 degrees. So I hope everybody's keeping warm. And Mercedes Bean already up and about, saying greetings, Ralph, Wild Earth crew and chatters. Happy Tuesday. Straight back at you, Mercedes Bean. Lovely to have you on board once more. We often see this with the bulls teaming up, often a youngster with a bit of an older bull, learning the ropes after it's left the breeding herd. I just love it when elephants do that and put their trunk up, sniffing in a particular direction. Obviously working out what's going on over there. With possibly the best nose in the business. So Catherine saying keeping nice and warm here with 32 degrees. Oh, lucky you, Catherine. Yeah. Most of South Africa is pretty chilly currently. And if you didn't know, the Olifants River, meaning the Elephants River, it flows through the Kruger National Park from west to east. And it's roughly halfway up the game reserve, so almost in the middle. Sounds like a pearl-spotted owlet in the background. There's a great go-away bird that was just calling. There's a pearl-spotted owlet also in the background. You see a bit of wind coming through as well. There's lots and lots of wind down on the coast currently. And there go our noisy friends, the Natal spurfowl. Joanne Mello is also sending her greetings. Greetings back to you, Joanne. Nice to have you on board once more, as always. So Lenny was saying that it's 92 degrees Fahrenheit here. That's the overnight low. What is that? That's probably around 28, 27, 28 degrees, I think, somewhere in that area, Celsius. What a beautiful spectacle this is, just with these two lazy bulls just slowly feeding along the bank. But there's definitely no rush, that's for sure. So Livy Etztebeth says, good day, Ralph and everyone. It's icy cold and raining in the Cape. Brrr. Absolutely. It is a cold one, so it's lovely to see these sunny spots out here on the different cameras. So there on the right-hand side bank is where those fig trees are that I was talking about, that the baboons like to roost up in. I wonder if we'll see them today. Is that a crocodile? Looks like it. Sunning itself there just in the shallows. Can you imagine, even though it's warmer in these parts and generally around South Africa, the water is still rather chilly. So I think he's trying to warm up. And on the opposite bank is often where we do see hippos. Is that one there? It looks like it. That it's either a moving rock or it's a hippopotamus. Straight over on the opposite bank. Yep, that's the spot. Another one trying to warm up in the sun. Oh, I'm trying to find a better position in the sand. That looks nice and soft and cozy. And you see those oxpeckers hard at work, keeping those wounds open. It must be quite irritating for the hippo. They're pretty much just parasitic on hippopotamus. It's amazing watching the oxpeckers, how they can move in any direction they want to. Backwards, forwards, sideways. Very highly adapted feet. The yellow-breasted apellis calling there. See, every now and then the oxpeckers actually hit a nerve. As I say, digging into those wounds must be quite sore sometimes. Shame, I think these birds are rather irritating to this hippo now. It's trying to get rid of them, but it's a little bit lazy to do the job properly. So Joanne Mello also saying not too often you see a hippo on land sleeping. It's very cool. Yeah, and more so in winter, Joanne. Obviously, when the water gets very cold, the hippos aren't great at thermoregulating. Hence the reason why they stay in the water, especially when it's very hot. But on these days, this is when you'll see them out sunning themselves, just like the crocodiles. But still being pretty much nocturnal. It probably would have been out grazing during the night, and now pretty tired and will have to sleep up and rest up during the best part of the day. Only thing is very similar to watching lions. They are pretty inactive during the daytime hours, so they aren't really that exciting. It's still nice to see a big hippo out the water, nice and clearly as well. And nice to see that you can actually clearly see now that the nose, the eyes, and the ears are pretty much on this level plane. And so that does help when they're in the water and they can be able to see, hear, and smell without sticking their any other part of their body out of the water. And another sleeping character, the Nile crocodile, looking very menacing. Look at those teeth. A little bit of eye movement there, I think. Might have woken up. Look at all those scales and those ridges down the back. It does help for hydrodynamics and also for their mating displays. Right, so lovely start here at Olifants River, nice and calm with lots of sleepy animals and obviously the lazy elephants as well. So I think it's time to shift place, and when we're going to Kenya and Old Dog. And this has been quite a common sight over the last little while. Lots of elephant bulls. I don't see our big tusker, 1 ton. Like this one here on the left. It's got quite a sizable tusks anyway. Also the Maasai giraffe in the background and the odd zebra. Wow, that was a lot of oxpeckers that just flew off that giraffe. Getting a fright from the zebra, I think. Now, just a bit of info from this particular site, from Africam, and let's pick up the wildlife of Old Donyo, which is located at the Chulu Hills stretch out to the plains of Amboseli. It's a spectacular location, as you can see, with incredible views of Mount Kilimanjaro. When it's clear, we have had a couple of days being able to see it, and a bustling waterhole with wildlife frequent visitors. Here we can see amazing sightings of striped hyenas, spotted hyenas, lions, big tuskers, giraffe, zebra, eland, oryx, yellow baboons, and secretary birds. But it's the animals that we see at night, obviously, that is really incredible. And there's a lot that happens under the cover of darkness at Old Donyo. The Africam cameras are discreet at the location, so it allows us to see and witness incredible wildlife sightings without the animals even knowing that we're there. In one night, the Old Donyo waterhole can have hundreds of visitors. And it's also home to many tuskers. And there's only currently about 25 tuskers left in Africa. The Tsavo area holds the majority of that number. And we're blessed to have them as such frequent visitors to this live stream. The famous 1 ton resides in this area and visits Old Donyo Waterhole on a daily basis, generally, and showing off his majestic tusks. Females on average stand 2.5 meters high and weigh up to 3 tons, sometimes a little bit more than that. The African savanna elephants have large visible tusks, which is unlike Asian elephants that have small tushes that don't often protrude like that of the African elephant. And the bulls grow larger and heavier tusks than females, and those whose tusks reach lengths of 1.5 meters or more are referred to as tuskers. The tusk length and weight is variable, but the record stands at 3.5 meters long with a weight of 117 kilograms. And the real special one for me here is the sightings of the striped hyenas, but obviously that would be at night. And almost every day, if you carry on watching this waterhole on AfriCam, you can see animals coming down to the waterhole to drink or bathe. It's also great to play a game of which animals can you name. Obviously here it's quite easy, but nice to see the different animals of East Africa as well, with the fringe-eared oryx, and of course those striped hyenas, which are very rare and you don't often see anywhere else. Oh, Maasai giraffe now, maybe going to take a chance, see if it can have a drink. Of course, you can hear those oxpeckers. Looks like there might be some of the wattled starlings in amongst them as well. So now the giraffe finally getting a turn. Wow, there are so many birds here now. A mix of red-billed oxpeckers and wattled starlings. What a beautiful close-up that is, with the elephant bull in the background as well. Stunning. So Nick was asking me, what's the biggest elephant that I have seen? Nick, I've seen a couple of the big tuskers in the Kruger. I don't know which ones they were, but I've seen at least two. But they were, their tusks were massive. But I still believe that, in my experience, the largest elephants that I've ever seen are in the Etosha National Park. They are just monstrous. They don't have the same size tusks that these guys have, but just in sheer body mass and the size of the head, it's just, for me, I've never seen elephants that big. And I've been in the Masai Mara as well in Kenya. Look, those elephants are big, but I think they're slightly pipped in pure body mass by the southern Angola and northern Namibian elephants. So Sandy was saying, happy to see that they filled the waterhole, but those elephants take so much. Yeah, they can take up to about 200 liters each in one sitting. So it can, drop the levels of the waterhole very fast. But I think they just keep it running, and it does fill up nicely. So I haven't seen it completely empty ever. Once it starts getting low, I think they turn the taps on and then start filling it up again. So, in fact, just looking for a bit of evidence around the largest elephants in the world, where I believe are in northern Namibia, southern Angola, and a lovely little write-up from Travel Namibia speaking about their evolution and distribution worldwide. Elephants are descended from Muritherium, which is a small pig-like animal that lived about 37 million years ago. Today, there's probably about 600,000 African elephants left in the world, and only a tenth as many Asian ones. Although people may assume that Asian and African elephants are the same animals living on different continents, they are different species and, in fact, different genera, which almost never interbred. But there's the caveat, almost. Another genus of the elephant family was the Arctic adapted woolly mammoth. It died out in northern Europe and America around 10,000 years ago. So from animals of war to beasts of burden, elephants were used as animals of war from antiquity until fairly recent times as beasts of burden and in battle for charging and terrifying the enemy. Alexander the Great used them. Hannibal, the North African general, had about 40 when he famously crossed the Alps to attack Rome. And Pyrrhus, the king of Epirus, modern Albania, used them in his battles, which he usually won with great casualties to the animals. hence a Pyrrhic victory. Now, Namibia is especially famed for its now thriving population of some 600 desert-adapted elephants living in Damaraland and the Kunene region. The Etosha National Park contains about 2,500 elephants, with some thousands more in the northeast and Caprivi region. The numbers are approximate since elephants are no respecters of parks or even national boundaries and casually roam through neighboring territory, much to the concern of a lot of the local inhabitants. So Talon was saying that the giraffe are just like a deli for the birds. Yeah, and they're also good transportation as well. So they get their food and their ride all in one. Now, you see that one, he's got a floppy ear. We've had him here before. He's the one in the back. He's got that, his left ear, as we're looking at him, on the right. So yeah, it's sort of probably a bit of damage in the cartilage on the top. Made it a bit lazy. Yeah, the flies buzzing past. So Danny's saying that zebra is very close to the elephant. I think he's a couple of meters away, but he'll probably be keeping his eye on that elephant. They can be bullies at the waterhole sometimes. So you don't really get this too much from breeding herds where they stand about, mill about. They're always a little bit more busy than the bulls. They've got a lot more to worry about as well, looking after the youngsters. So Catherine was saying that the biggest elephants are always those that sneak up on you on foot. Yeah, I've had a few of those, Catherine. Sometimes they sneak up from behind as well as you're walking, and they start following your trail from long off. Just when you turn around, you don't even hear them, and there's one following your trail. There's still lots of ear wafting though, so it does indicate that it is reasonably warm. The elephants just keeping themselves cool. Always a very good indicator of how much activity there is on the ear flapping. Look at all those wrinkles. Very important part of the physiology of elephants. Helps with their thermoregulation. So, although one ton's not here, we generally have him here, and we've got one ton, and here we've got one tusk. Hello, Mr. Secretary Bird. That was just a quick visit. He wanted to come for a drink, but I think he's going to have to wait until these chaps move on. All right, so lovely stop in here at Old Donyo, and I'm sure we'll be back to see the Old Boys Club and see who sticks around. But I think it's time to change of place. Let's head on over to where I was speaking of, and that's Etosha. Nice big breeding herd of elephants. This is wonderful. What a sight. Looks like we've got some other animals there. Oryx is probably, yeah, lots of springbok dotted all around. Some of them in the water, some just on the edge. I still always live in hope that we're going to see one of the members of the Umbika pride of lions, called as such because of the waterhole that they normally hang around, which is just to the south of here, but it's about 15 kilometers away. But they often come to this waterhole as well as part of their territory. But during the middle of the day, obviously, very little chance of that. Sometimes they're spotted lying up in the shade in these trees in the background. But it's the animals that give it away. You'll often see then the animals staring in that direction and giving it a wide berth as well. So we always follow those clues when we want to spot them. So just a bit of info from Africa Geographic on the Etosha National Park. It's situated in northern Namibia. Etosha National Park is a fenced reserve that is one of the country's most popular safari destinations. I would say it is the most popular safari destination, with a stark otherworldly scenery and spectacular wildlife viewing being the park's two major drawcards. It was proclaimed as a protected area in 1907, and Etosha was once the largest game reserve in the world, and estimated to cover around 80,000 square kilometers, or 8 million hectares, 4 times the size of South Africa's Kruger National Park. Significant boundary changes throughout the 20th century eventually reduced the park to its current size of just over 22,000 square kilometers, or 2.2 million hectares. That's quite a similar size to the Kruger. The park's eastern side is dominated by the enormous Etosha Pan, while Dolomite Hills are the main geographical feature of the western half of the park, and that's in the direction that we're looking. And this western region has only recently been opened up to visitors. It was previously only accessible by local tour operators or guests at the Dolomite camp. And I used to spend a lot of time as part of one of those local tour operators exploring that western side, wilderness as we called it. It wasn't open to the general public. And the animals were very wild as well. They would run away from the vehicles as soon as they saw them or heard them. So it wasn't as easy viewing as it is here in the central and eastern side of the park. Now, the park is named for the Etosha Pan, which is an enormous 4,760 kilometer squared salt pan just to the north of where we are now. And it's actually visible from space, which makes up nearly a quarter of the national park. The desiccated and bleached soils of the pan are dry for most, if not all, of the year. The word Etosha is said to have originated from the Ndonga word for great white place, an accurate description of the chalky and desolate landscape. The original human inhabitants of Etosha were the Iom, Bushman people, and they have their own legend as to the history of the pan. According to their mythology, there was once a small village at the center of the pan that was raided by a rival tribe. All of the village inhabitants were slaughtered, but for one woman, who was so grief-stricken that her tears created an enormous salty lake. And the lake dried eventually, but the salt of her tears remained. And the likely scientific explanation for the formation of the Endorheic Basin is that tectonic shifts redirected the flow of the Kunene River, and the lake dried up over time, probably around the same time as the formation of the Okavango Delta. Now, life in arid Etosha revolves around the waterholes dotted throughout the park. Many of these are fed by natural artesian springs. but some others are man-made. This one was a natural spring, but now they do bring up underground water to keep it permanent. And it's for good reason that the road network in the park is centered around these pivotal features. Apart from the height of the rainy season during the summer months, these waterholes offer the only available water for the park's multitudinous animal species. And as a result, remarkable sightings at the water's edge are inevitable. For eager photographers and predators alike, the waterholes guarantee a gathering of animals unlike any other. And as is so often the case in Africa's treasured protected areas, Etosha's animals are a testament to natural resilience. By the late 19th century, the region's large mammal species, including elephant, rhino, and lion, had been all but exterminated. Still, mammal life has bounced back over the last century. There are two near endemic antelope, the black-faced impala, which is a subspecies. Um, it also only occurs in southern Angola. The black-backed jackals haunt the waterholes, exploding into action whenever the delicately colored flocks of sandgrouse arrive to drink, normally early mornings and late afternoons here. While the larger predators like lions and spotted hyena follow similar tactics with bigger prey in mind. So the looming figures of the elephants at the waterholes look enormous. Look on from this perspective, we're looking down on them, so they don't quite look as big. And obviously here it's mainly females with the youngsters. But this is not just due to a trick of perspective when you are actually on the ground. Etosha is home to some of the largest elephants in the world. When covered in the white clay soils from around the waterholes, they look like giant grey ghosts, which only adds to their gravitas. While physically enormous, their tusks are generally far smaller than other elephants in different parts of Africa, which may be due to genetics or the mineral balance in their diet, or a combination of both. It looks like they might slowly be making their way out of the area, but they are taking their time. I wonder if there's a discussion underway. There's a couple of very small babies with them. Maybe that's why they're going so slowly. All right, so these guys are slowly starting to leave. I don't think they're quite done just yet. But we're going to change of place. All right, as I was saying, these guys are slowly moving out of the area, so I think we're going to do the same, and we're going to go back to South Africa, this time to the Madikwe Game Reserve and Tau. Yeah, it's a bit of a change up. Here we've got a water buck in the water. Surprise, surprise. Nice little group of zebra. Looks like a grey heron on the opposite bank. And lots of birds moving around. Looks like there's a couple of teals there. Maybe red-knobbed coots. Common moorhens. And the water buck enjoying a bit of a feed at the same time. Looks like there's a lone impala ram there on the opposite side. Just getting chased off by the zebra. There's a blacksmith lapwing just running around on the dirt. Now Victoria saying the perfect African scene. Absolutely. All of these waterholes are just spectacular. Have a bit of a scan and see what else is about. What is that? A couple of red hartebeest, I think. Yep. And another crocodile, also sunning itself on the bank. So the hartebeests just having a bit of a go at each other. I hope you guys don't get locked up. It looks like you're pretty close to. No, they're not locked. At least that's a good sign. Oh, hello, a little bit of movement. That's always exciting. So Miss M says, "Oh, I didn't even see that guy there." Yeah, they lie so still, and they obviously look so much like the dirt. Very well camouflaged. You can very often overlook them. His eye was open. Now he's shut. Looks like maybe going to go for a snooze. Nice to see the blue wildebeest making their way through as well, as a lot of the zebra are leaving. We got impala. There is one of the white-faced whistling ducks, I believe. No, it's a South African shell duck. Pardon. And it is the female with a white face. So Laura was asking, oh, there's a warthog. What's the easiest way to determine a bird's gender? So Laura, I would say that it's definitely their plumage. The males are generally a lot more flamboyant and colorful. Um, and so in all the bird books and the identification guides, they will give a very clear indication on the different appearance of the genders. And so it will normally be an immature and then male and female colorations. Immatures can very often be difficult to identify, even because very often very mottled as they sort of transform into the adult. And so very often can be confusing between a couple of different species as we see those juveniles. But then as they become adults, there's normally a very clear difference between the male and female's plumage in terms of coloration. And so normally the easiest to identify them like that. Like for instance, with the South African shell duck adults, the female has got a white head and the male's got a grey head. So very easy to tell between the two. Sometimes it's a lot more subtle, and sometimes there's not a major difference between them. For instance, the little wagtails, male and female, they just have a difference in the sort of band across their chest. With the female, I think she's got two, and the male only one, and it's quite similar with the pied kingfisher as well, with the banding being different between the two. So that's generally how we do tell between the sexes. And another beautiful lineup. The wildebeest now coming to join the zebra. So one of those wildebeest just decided to plonk itself in the mud. It looks like an immature as well. See, they're not fully formed horns. Easy to tell. Joanne Mello saying, I'm looking at the background. Beautiful landscape. It is a wonderfully beautiful reserve, this Madikwe. Semi-arid, so quite dry, obviously, but it does make for beautiful landscapes. Lovely close-ups as well. As the most photogenic of all the animals takes a drink. So the animals here will obviously be quite cautious because they do know that there's crocodiles in the water. And so they don't generally go too deep into the water itself, like what we see in Etosha, where there's no crocodiles. Wow, that wildebeest really getting into the mud. It's stuck all over his horns now. There he shakes him off. See the warthog going trotting off there. Looks like it might be going over to join those other ones. Now we can see the male and female South African shell ducks. Male on the right, female on the left. So, and obviously, being winter, there can be a little bit more activity in the middle of the day from pretty much all the animals. Um, because it's not so hot, it's not so stifling, and so it's not as difficult for them to sort of maintain a healthy temperature. So, you do notice a lot more activity during these months. And those hartebears still having a go at each other. Looks like this fight is heating up a bit. They're really going for it now. So it looks like we have a winner. So, and back to our crocodile sunning itself on the bank. A couple of youngsters, the blue wildebeest. I can't see that bird too clearly, but I think it is one of the spur-winged geese that we've been seeing here regularly. In the background is black-winged stilts. So a little bit quiet here, elephant-wise, but there's still lots and lots of animals around, particularly the waterfowl and the herding animals, the zebra and the wildebeest. So Jayla was asking, do you have an idea why some waterholes get more diverse species coming down than others? Jayla, I suppose it all depends on where the waterhole is situated within the different game reserves, because that will also determine, the kind of species that will visit the waterhole and that specific waterhole. If there's nice thick bush around, here it seems like we've got a little bit of a mix between sort of grassed areas and bushy thickets. So we're getting a mix of animals too. The reason we're having all the diversity of birds in this waterhole, I think, is a lot due to the level of the water. So it's reasonably shallow. It's obviously got a lot of food in it, and there's also quite a lot of vegetation, which houses then a lot of the food that the birds will be after. And then that also does make it easier for them to have nesting material, etc. So I think in a big part due to the geographical location, but then in accordance with the surrounding bush and vegetation that's in the area, as well as in the waterhole itself. There's a couple of yellow-billed ducks dabbling. Maybe the waterbuck now decided it's time to move along, and he makes his way through the mud. Okay, so always a lovely stop in here at Tau, but I think we're going to change of place again, and let's head back to Old Donyo. There we are, and it looks like the old boys club is pretty much split up. Ooh, what have we got here? Is it some crowned guinea fowl? Yes, indeedy. With a nice little youngster, zebra. You can see that brown fluffy coat. And old floppy ear elephant is hung around. That's nice to see. Oh, another big bull coming onto the scene. Now, Joanne Miller was asking me about the crocs at Tau and asking if they were actually... special is this with the secretary bird now moving in? It was here earlier. I was trying to come through, and also those crowned guinea fowl. Very special. You never know what to expect, huh? Secretary bird's braver than the giraffe, I would say. And these elephants both drinking at the outlets and the favored drinking spots, because that's where the nice fresh water is. And as I always say, real water connoisseurs. Lenny saying that loves secretary birds. They are very special indeed. Can't be mistaken for anything else, that's for sure. I love the tassels behind the head and also the lovely long eyelashes. See, and with it not having a gullet, like some birds do, the likes of doves and bustards, they've got to scoop the water once at a time, one swallow at a time. And off goes the secretary bird. I think that's drunk its full. So Cynthia asking a very good question. Is there a specific reason why some birds like this one don't have feathers on their legs? So Cynthia, when it comes to birds of prey, if they don't have feathers on the legs, it's generally because they're reptile hunters. So and also quite heavily snakes that they feed on. So very scaled, protected legs, and then they don't have the feathers. So any of them, like the brown snake eagle and the secretary bird, both very much going for reptiles, and a big part of their diet is actually snakes. So that is pretty much the main reason why they don't have feathers going all the way down their legs. Little youngster giraffe over there. That's nice to see. As the big bull goes walking off. So even though there's only one bull now, these giraffe are still a bit nervous to come through. Really can't see anything of Mount Kilimanjaro there in the background. It's just not clear enough. Now, Melody was asking, I love observing the push and pull relationship that elephants have with the other animals around the waterhole. Yeah, that's it. And sometimes they can be bullies, but they can also be bullied sometimes, as we've seen from the zebra, who keep pushing forward. But when the elephants are here in numbers, it's quite difficult to get rid of them. So Christian was asking, Ralph, are there any keystone species found in the water? Now, Christian, this is a very small waterhole, so I know that there are frogs in here, and in such a small waterhole like that, they would probably be the keystone species here. I don't think there's any fish. It's a little bit too small, and it very often almost dries up completely with the elephants sucking it dry. But in general, in most of the waterholes, I would say that a real keystone species is probably the catfish, the sharp-toothed catfish, because keystone species is an organism that helps to define that entire ecosystem. The likes of an elephant, the ecosystem engineers. And so the whole ecosystem would be totally different if they were not present. Um, and so I would say the same in the waterholes with the sharp-toothed catfish. They are quite prolific breeders. They also are predators. And would be then the apex predator within that. And if we go into the bigger waterholes, then it obviously would be the likes of crocodiles as well, who would then be the apex predator over and above the sharp-toothed catfish, which feed on a lot of small fish. They feed on tilapia and will feed on frogs as well. And in fact, anything that lives in the waterhole, a lot of the invertebrates that have their larvae, etc., in the water, they'll feed on all of that. So real keystone species, I would say, across the board in general. Firstly, the sharp-toothed catfish, and then in those places that they occur, also the crocodile. But in a little waterhole like this, I would have to say, we've seen foam nest next to this waterhole. So I would say that there are great tree frogs or foam nest frogs. And with the absence of fish, I would say that it's probably then down to them. So Jayla asking, why is it that we don't see all bird species in flocks? Well, Jayla, it's all sort of down to evolution and the different paths that the different species have taken. So some will flock, like we're seeing with the wattled starlings there, and they've been successful as a result of doing that. So then they continue doing it because of the success in that endeavor. But then you get the likes of the oxpeckers, which are more cooperative breeders, so not really in flocks like we see with the starlings, but they also do stay in groups, but it's family groups, um, and there's an alpha male and female within the oxpeckers in that one family, and all of the birds outside of the alpha male and female forego passing on their own genes, and help the alpha male and female to do so very successfully by assisting them in nest building and rearing the young and finding food and all of that, and sort of anti-predator behavior. And so then they make that alpha male and female more successful. Then you go on to the likes of the secretary bird, which only stays in solitary or in pairs. And a lot of the raptors they have found success doing this. Um, they almost have competition from other secretary birds, and so rather try to have their own territories instead of staying in big groups. So it all depends on the species and the evolution of such. We can compare that to mammals as well. Some have evolved to eat grass, some evolved to eat plants, and sometimes staying together as a species has been successful as opposed to being solitary. So it all depends, as I say, on those different species and the success that they've found in the different evolutionary paths that they've taken. I just love watching these calm bulls just enjoy themselves at the waterhole. It's almost calming to you as a person watching them. And obviously, that can change drastically when they do go through those periods of being in must. Normally around once or twice a year, and then they're just a totally different beast. So nice to see them in this state. Still lots of the wattle starlings. Now they're growing in numbers there on the right hand side. So Joanne Mello saying thank you, Ralph and Wild Earth. Have a good Tuesday. Straight back at you, Joanne. Thanks for joining us once again. There's another Maasai giraffe, makes its way in with its Christmas tree neck, with all of those oxpeckers all over it. Giraffe not too sure if he can stick around there. He's good to be nervous. The elephants can be a bit unpredictable, as we've seen. It's a young bull. Got a beautiful coat on him. Hasn't quite matured just yet. Still got a bit of growing to do, I would say. So slowly heading towards the end of the show. I hope you've all enjoyed it. It's been a bit of a slow one today, nice and relaxed, but that's good. No 2 days are the same. And as we always say, the only constant out at the bush is change. So every single day is different, that's for sure. But don't go anywhere. There's still lots of wildlife action coming your way. So, as I say, I hope you've enjoyed it. And of course, we'll be back here again. It won't be me tomorrow, same time, same place. Now, looks like it's the time for the giraffe. Well, that's it from me for now, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bush greetings, give it horns. Cheers.